What is going on, guys? Today we're going to be tier ranking a bunch of Walking Dead character deaths. So you guys have been absolutely killing it on these videos. You guys have been just watching a ton of my Walking Dead related content as of recent, so I decided I'd milk it a little bit and just do a bunch of more rankings because that's just, you know, what people do. We're gonna milk the shit, so I can't complain about AMC milking The Walking Dead anymore because I'm doing the same exact thing. But we have character deaths to talk about today. Some people recommended this, and I thought it would be kind of an interesting thing because I've already talked about character deaths in some other videos, so why not just do a bunch of them? So I'm not going to go through and rank literally every single character death because a lot of characters are not that important and their deaths are not that important to the series, so I'm not going to do every single character. I'm doing the most important characters, the primary characters, the ones that I think are just the most important. I probably forgot about a couple ones here and there that are very important. I don't know. So when it comes to character deaths, what makes a character death good? First of all, it has to be impactful based on how impactful the character is itself. So if it's a very important character, make that death really impactful. If it's a, semi-important character, make their death semi-important. And if it's not that important of a character, they're probably not on this list in the first place. Also, the way it happens, the build up to it, how gruesome is it, how fitting is it for that character? Does it develop people around it? Does it make for a good scene? Does it make sense? All of that is important. Of course, the scene itself is important, but it's not just the scene. It's also just the things surrounding the scene and how it has an effect on the series for years to come. I do have an F tier here because there are some deaths that I think are deserving of F tier that I think are just badly written. I'm not rating it on like a scale of how much do I enjoy watching these characters die, because I'm not a psychopath. I don't enjoy watching these characters die. Well, I mean, it's a show, so part of me does, but you know what I mean. It's just simply how well written is this death? How well does it fit this character? That's all I'm basing it on. Simple as that. So let's get to it. Sophia, this is the first, I would say, major character death. You had, Jim, Jackie, and the ones in the first season, but none of them were like big, crazy deaths. This was the first one that really hit you and made you go, damn. And it wasn't because Sophia was a big character, it was because Carol was. And it's her daughter, so it's like, it hurts, it hurts. Sophia, though, I'm gonna say I rated her scene itself, this scene, as one of the best scenes in The Walking Dead. And so I think the death has to go in S tier for that exact reason. Because yes, the scene is one of the best. Because it's the first. It's the first big death. It's the hard-hitting one. And it had so much build-up because they've been looking for her for over a season. And when they finally get there, it's like, shit. We failed. We completely failed. And they had a good explanation for why she was in there. Otis put her in there, and Otis has been gone. I think a lot of people, when they first saw it, they were questioning how the hell could they possibly have had her in there without anyone realizing. Otis did it, and I guess they just never realized when they were feeding the walkers, when Patricia was feeding them, she never realized. I mean, I don't know, she doesn't know exactly what Sophia looks like, so it all made sense. And this impacted Carol a ton. Carol's character went on to become one of the best characters in the show because of this moment, so yes, it has to be S tier. It's just that important. Shane's death is also one of the best. I'm not going to order them in the tiers because, I mean, that's just too hard right now, but yes, definitely S tier as well. This is one, again, like I said in my scenes video, one of the best scenes in The Walking Dead, and this death has such high importance on the rest of the show. It has so much importance on Rick's character and what he does in the future. His actions are pretty much because of this. Why he bites Joe's throat out, why he just loses it in season 3 after Lori dies. Like, it all adds up to, it all goes back to killing his own best friend. A lot of it goes back to that. And we even get a really cool flashback, or not flashback, a hallucination sequence in season 9 with Shane, and that conversation that they have, and pretty much solidifies exactly what I'm saying here, where Shane is telling Rick, you became someone else because of me. You were doing stuff like, killing Gareth in the church because of me. Like, that was all my influence, and I really like that scene. T-Dog's death. I didn't really like T-Dog that much as a character, like, because he just didn't do much. He wasn't around. He wasn't given much of a character arc. And this episode, it was kind of annoying because it was like just this episode they started giving him something. There were like little bits of information about him. Like, we kind of learned that he actually was a bit religious. I didn't even know that. And he had a good scene where he was talking to the group, and he was kind of going against what the group was saying. It was cool to see some stuff from T-Dog, but then he dies in the same episode. He saves Carol's life, so I guess that's cool. It adds more stakes to the moment, so like, it's not a bad death. It was pretty gruesome too, when bites out his throat, but in general, it's not like the most eventful death in the world, and I don't really think it mattered that much. Honestly, I don't even need to have him on this list because I know if I didn't, people would freak out though. So I put him there because yeah, it's okay, it's fine. Lori, definitely S tier. I talked about this in my favorite scenes video, another one of my favorite scenes. Her death has a huge impact on the show, obviously for Carl, Judith, and Rick. And this scene, even Maggie as well, this scene was just so beautifully done. It was so beautifully executed, the way it was just, especially her acting in this scene, and the speech she's giving Carl in that moment, and then the fact that they had to cut her open. It was just such a shitty situation, and it made for one of the best episodes in the show. So I absolutely love Lori's death. I already talked about it in the other video, so if you want to see me talk about that scene more, go watch my top 10 scenes from The Walking Dead video that I uploaded a couple days ago. Definitely check that out. Merle's death. Merle's death was really solid. I'm not going to give it S tier, but it was definitely an A tier death. It was just a redeeming moment for him. You know, him going to the governor because he realized, you know, he's not going to try to bring over Michonne, because I think in that moment he realized, if I do hand over Michonne to the governor and he kills me anyways, that's the last thing they're going to know me by. That's the last thing my own brother's going to know me by, is this piece of shit who tried to give over Michonne. He didn't want to be known as that. If he was going to die, he wanted to go out with them thinking of him as a hero. So that's what he did. And he went there, tried to kill governor. He failed, but he killed a couple of them and gave him a fighting chance. So it was a great moment. And then Daryl's finding him as a walker was heartbreaking, and I thought it was a really solid death. So it's definitely A tier. I thought it was a fitting moment for him. I didn't really think he had to live any longer than that. I've seen a lot of people say they wish Merle lived longer than that. I was fine with it. Andrea's an interesting one. I don't think it was terrible, this death. A lot of people think it was god-awful. I'm going to give it B tier, though. I think the comic fan in me wanted Andrea to live longer, but after seeing them replacing Andrea's storyline with Michonne, I don't really care anymore, because I think Michonne fits the role just fine. But Andrea, this version, I think this death worked. You know, I didn't think her story had much more to do after this. And the only issue, I think, keeping it from being A or S, or even just, you know, any higher than B, is it was a little annoying because she was sitting in that chair for so long, and she could have probably gotten herself out so much quicker, but she was just talking to Milton the whole time. I didn't include Milton's death on here. It wasn't that important. Just before people are like, what about Milton's death? It was whatever. But yeah, she could have easily gotten herself out much quicker. She was just taking her sweet ass time. And so I thought that was kind of annoying. It was like, when a character could easily have gotten out of a situation and then they die, it definitely takes away from it. But I think the moment was emotional enough, especially for Michonne, and so I think it deserves B tier just because of the emotion that scene had and the impact it had, just with Rick deciding, you know, I'm going to try to bring the rest of the Woodburyans. Did anyone ever call them Woodburyans before? I might be the first one to say that. Bringing the Woodbury people to the prison. I don't think he would have if the situation didn't happen similarly to how it happened. So I liked it. Herschel's death, S tier as well. This is one of my favorite moments in the show. But like I said, I love the speech, you know, building up to it. It's such a big build up to this moment. But Herschel's character itself and how it builds up to that death is really huge. It goes from Herschel, you know, being in season 2 where he's kind of just very cold-hearted. He's like, no, I don't want you guys on my farm. Get the hell out of here. He slowly changes as the show goes on. He becomes a very selfless person who is willing to risk his life to save people during that sickness arc. The sickness arc was carried by Herschel. Well, no, I like the sickness arc anyways, but Herschel was the king of the sickness arc. He had so much to do in there, and the way he was just going in, saving people's lives was incredible. And then for him to just die right after that big moment for him, I think was very fitting. And this death obviously has a huge impact on the series because it's, you know, the governor was the one to do it and gave Rick the reason to just not want to trust people anymore after this episode. So I thought that was incredibly fitting. And the governor is going to go right next to him because that moment was incredible as well. It was very fitting to give it to Michonne, obviously, and the way it was done, where he was just choking out Rick and Michonne just slices through his chest and out his back. It was just beautifully handled. And then Lily giving him the final pop. I loved this damn death. Too Far Gone's a masterpiece of an episode, so obviously that's going to be the case. Another S tier right after it. Well, actually, yeah, I'm putting both of these. Lizzie and Mika, I'm just going to throw them both on S because that whole moment, I talked about it in my top 10 scenes video as well. This whole final 10 minutes of the Grove is some of the best stuff from The Walking Dead. It's really impactful, especially for Carol's character, of course, and it's hard, man. Seeing a kid kill her own sister because she's just crazy, is just insane. And then Carol having to put her down because of it is incredibly heartbreaking. And like I said, it makes for one of the best scenes in The Walking Dead. So like I said, I already talked about it in the other video, so go check it out if you want to hear me talk more about it. Bob's death. So for Bob's death, like, you know, obviously I'd include everything revolving around his death. I think what was really cool about Bob's death was the way they gave him the tainted meat scene. I think the tainted meat scene's incredible, the way they, you know, they did that. So that's definitely part of his death. But I don't think they did enough with Bob for me to really feel like his death had a big impact on the series. More so, it just had a big impact on Sasha going forward. But because they killed off Tyrese in the same season, like only a few episodes later, I don't even think Bob's death had much of an impact. They could have left Bob's character out, and I think Sasha would have been developed the exact same way because of Tyrese's death. You know what I mean? But it was still a good death just for the tainted meat scene. So I'm gonna say one of these two. It's either bottom of B or top. I'm gonna say like in C. I just don't think it's anything too. It would be definitely like top of C though, you know, because it didn't have that much impact because of that. You know, I don't think they gave him enough stuff to do within the season that he was in for it to be that important. Beth's death is a hard one because I love Beth's character. I thought she was great, and I hated this hospital arc. I thought their ending of her character in that arc was just bad. But this is one of the most shocking moments in the series, and I don't think shock value automatically makes something good, because it doesn't, obviously. But the shock value does add something to it, because it is, I would say, one of the most shocking moments in The Walking Dead. It comes out of absolutely nowhere. It's just, what the fuck? The situation, though, I don't really like, because I don't get why Beth would think that a stab in the, like, right here with a scissor would kill Dawn. I don't know if she was exactly trying to do that. I think people's theories is that she was trying to just do anything to make it so Noah would go back with our group. But, like, she could have just killed her, maybe gone for the neck. It just feels a little lazy in that aspect. And it's also been a little weird. They messed up with the CGI. They put the spot of the exit wound, like, right here. And then they put the entry wound, like, right here, which makes no sense. It should be, like, up here, going up and out, but they messed up that, which is a little nitpick, but it's just something I've always noticed. So I'm not crazy about this death, but I think the impact it has on Maggie is pretty huge. Obviously, Maggie did lose Herschel, but she didn't have as big of an impact on her character until, you know, Beth died, and then obviously Glenn, but that was a whole season or two later. So I think it deserves C tier just because of how shocking it was and how great it was executed. But I don't like the idea of it itself. I think they could have definitely found a way to do it better. And if the hospital arc was just more interesting, or maybe they did something else with Beth, I think they could have found a better way to kill her off, personally speaking. Tyrese. I might get some hate for this, but D. I don't like his death. The only thing keeping his death out of the F tier is the fact that it was, like, really artistically executed. But the idea of it is a little stupid. First of all, right after Beth's death, right after we already lost a character, it seems a bit much to just kill off another one in a completely different way. It feels a little bit like, I don't know, it doesn't, because they don't fit, you know, they don't work off each other. Like Glenn and Abraham, they worked off each other, whatever. But this is like one major death after one not as major, but still pretty major death. It's a little weird to have that back to back like that. And his death does come out of nowhere, kind of. You know, Walker just bites him, and then they have this whole episode with him of just kind of like reminiscing over things and just kind of realizing what kind of a person he was. And it's a very character study focused episode on him, and it's artistically beautiful, the way it's edited and directed and stuff. But I never felt like this death was that impactful. And it's kind of the same thing I had said about Bob is, you know, these two characters, if only one of them died, it would have probably had the same impact to Sasha. Maybe not this. I think Tyrese's would have been a little bit more impactful just because it's her brother. But I feel like they just didn't work the exact way. And Tyrese is a character that could have had a death of him actually like going out fighting. I feel like he's the type of character to die that way, but because he just died from a Walker bite, it did feel a little bit weird. But the only thing keeping it at F was how artistically done it was, and I did like that a lot, so that's cool. Noah was not that major of a character, so like I can't say his death was the best thing ever, but the reason why it's going in B is because in terms of gore and brutality, it is definitely one of the best. And it's really creative too, having the whole revolving door thing, and then him going against the glass like that and getting his like, cheek ripped off. Like, it was really creatively executed, so that's why I think it deserves B. but it's not like, you know, the most eventful thing in the world because his character wasn't that huge, you know? But it was pretty impactful for the Glenn and Nicholas situation that goes into season 6, and then leading into that, we had Nicholas who shot himself. And the only thing keeping this out of B would be the fact that it is also accompanied by Glenn's fake out, which I don't really like that fake out death to this day. I don't hate it, but I don't like it either. But that moment itself I thought was pretty interesting. I thought it was fitting. You know, his character was just, he just couldn't handle life. Clearly, it was too much for him. It was too much. So he was just like, nope, fuck that. I'm not getting eaten alive by walkers. Like I said, it was fine. He wasn't a major character, so I don't really know how much I can say it was that great or anything. But yeah, that's fine. Deanna's death was good. It was a B. I don't think it was, you know, A or anything, but it was a B tier death, I would say. It was impactful because this is obviously, you know, leading into Rick taking over Alexandria eventually, because she was a prior leader, and now you know Rick was. So I liked it. I think it was a fine death. There's not much to say about it. She was just bitten, and then she kind of like was going out fighting against some walkers at the very end of that episode. She started popping them with the last of her rounds, and the only thing that holds it back, actually, that I'm thinking about it, it was so weird how it was done, because she, I would assume, got eaten alive in there, but she didn't. Apparently she only got bit once because she somehow fought her way out and then ended up outside of the walls. How the hell did that happen? Because in episode 10, she was outside of the walls and Spencer found her. Logically, this is actually stupid, so I want to put it down to C. I just thought of that. I'm like, wait, this death made no sense, because what happened there? I don't know. She must have fought off those walkers and then left Alexandria, but why? And I don't know if that should take away from her death moment, because it was a good moment, but yeah, that was stupid. I have to leave it there. I'm sorry. I can't get over how stupid that was now that I'm actually thinking about it. The Andersons, all three of them, that's going in A. That's, oh, actually, you know what? Okay, well, the moment itself is like an S tier moment, but the deaths themselves, maybe just A. Yeah, I think A would be good. No, that's a pretty freaking great moment. I'm putting in S. I'm just trying to, like, you know, not put too many in S, but, like, it's an S moment. I don't know, man. Like, it's that good of a moment. Yeah, I fucking love this death. So first of all, Sam getting it first was brutal. It's a kid. You know, seeing a kid get his face eaten alive was just terrible to see, and that's, you know, it should be terrible. And then seeing Jesse just break down and lose it, and it's the whole moment. It was so well done. This is an amazing episode, but this scene in particular was really well done. And then seeing Jesse get it, and then Rick, you know, having like flashes of memories with her, and then having to cut off her arm. It was such a crazy moment with everything that happened. And then of course Michonne had to kill Ron because Ron was about to shoot Rick, and then shot Carl in the eye. Like, just the whole moment itself was incredible. But, you know, it doesn't have that much of an impact on the series though when I really think about it, other than Carl getting his eye shot out. And that's really it, because the Andersons, they don't really make much of a difference after this. I don't think Rick was affected too much from Jesse dying. But I mean, it's just the moment was really good, you know? I don't know. The deaths didn't really make much of an impact. And I am ranking the deaths, so I'm going to put it back in A. I am ranking the deaths. It's hard to say the moment, because yes, the moment is important, but the deaths are more important. And I don't think they had that much of an impact, so I'm not going to put an S. But the moment itself, it's good enough to put it in A, for sure. It's an insanely crazy moment, you know? Denise. This would be like equivalent to Beth's death with how shocking it was, to be honest. Actually, I was spoiled before it even came out, so personally, I wasn't shocked. I wish I wasn't spoiled, because it would have been shocking if I didn't get spoiled. But this moment, Denise's death made an impact, I think, on Tara, and that was really it. No, Daryl as well, definitely Daryl, and a little bit Rosita, because she was there, so I guess that matters. So yeah, it was a pretty good moment, I would say. The only thing keeping it away from being higher, I think, is it was a little stupid why they bring the doctor outside the walls, but I don't know, I guess it made sense why they did. But yeah, it's a pretty good moment though, I gotta say. It is really shocking, and she was an interesting character. I will say Denise is an interesting character that I think I didn't really give much credit. Did I have her in my character ranking? I don't even remember where I put her, if I even had her in there, but she was interesting to a degree. And yeah, I liked her death. I did. So yeah, Abraham and Glenn, both S tier. I know the cliffhanger sucks, but that's just how damn good these deaths are, that the cliffhanger doesn't even take away from them. That's just how damn good they are. Again, I talked about it in my top 10 scenes video, but yeah, this is incredible. This is absolutely incredible stuff. The way it's executed, other than the cliffhanger, like I said, and the brutality of it and the impact is massive. This is so much impact on the series. To this day, this was a turning point. So it's great. Spencer gets gutted open by Negan. That's definitely A tier. Honestly, this is one of the this is probably my top like 30 favorite scenes, maybe, if I did like a top 30. This was a great moment. This was a really, really great moment. Obviously, Olivia dies in this scene too, but who fucking cares about Olivia? I don't. So Spencer getting gutted, I mean, this was a comic moment, and I was really happy to see it come to life on screen. But I mean, the way Negan handles that dialogue before he does it, with he being like, "You got no guts," and then just the way it slices his stomach open in that one shot that you see in the image there, a brilliant shot. The way you can just see the really long knife and it's just full of blood. It's a really great moment. It's not S tier, but it's a great, great, great moment. And it's basically what snaps our crew to being like, yeah, we need to go to war. We need to rise up and fight against these motherfuckers because they can't. Sasha. I hate putting the siblings in the... They didn't get good deaths, in my opinion. I just did not love the deaths that they were given, unfortunately. In my character ranking video, I said I didn't like Sasha's death because it just didn't make really sense to me why she would kill herself. And some people were kind of explaining it in the comments, and I do get what they're saying. Like, I do understand that she did it because she didn't want to be used as leverage to, you know, for them to like do anything. They wanted the ability for our crew to just light up the saviors without worrying about her being a captive. I understand that. But and in the end, it worked. It did, because that ended up allowing Sasha to, you know, come out and then grab Negan, and that gave Carl and the rest of them the ability to just start shooting back because they didn't have a hostage anymore. That's true. But Sasha doesn't know that that's going to work in that exact way. She got lucky, and it did work in that way. And I never felt like that death made sense, because she's killing herself off a chance and just a hope that that's how the situation goes out. Just hoping that our crew can just light everyone up and just have no problem with it just because she's dead. When in reality, there's something that could have possibly worked out with her being still alive, and she could have possibly stuck around. And that to me was a little bit iffy. I would have honestly preferred they just gave her the Holly death from the comics and they actually killed her and brought her back as a walker. I think that death was that was a cool moment in the comics. I would have been honestly fine with them redoing that moment, or at least in some remixed way, which I guess was the remixed way. But like I said, I just don't think it was very fitting. And Sasha's character, I don't think ended the way I always wanted her to. You know, it's definitely not F tier, but I just don't like the circumstances of it. She did get a cool moment getting to eat some dude's face at the end there. That was cool, so I like that. Carl's death. Carl. My man Carl. Yeah. This is a toughie. I'll be honest. When it first happened, I hated the idea of it. I even have a video on my previous channel of a reaction to that episode. So if you want to see my reaction to when Carl died, or when they revealed the bite, that's on my other channel. You can probably find it in the playlists on this channel or something. I don't know. And I was pissed. I was pretty young. I was like 18 at the time. I was pissed. I was like, I think I said something like, fuck off. I don't know. I said something. I was pissed.
Fuck off.
But as I saw it play out, especially in episode 9, and then going into the end of the season, and the way it all wrapped up with season 8, I started to be like, it works. It makes sense. It has a lot of impact on everything that's going on here. So yeah, it's just a matter of what can they do with it in the next season. And I knew from episode 9, I knew they were going to be giving Henry Carl's storyline. I could tell, because they did this really cool mirroring in that episode where Henry like killed Gavin right while Carl was talking about the fact that they need to stop this madness, they need to stop this killing, right? And I thought that was a really cool parallel. And they even used Carl's theme when Henry did that, but with like a darker tone to it. So it was like, it was telling me pretty much, oh, they're giving Henry Carl's arc, which got me really excited. because I was like, oh, we can see it from another character's perspective. That might make more sense because he's younger than Carl, so it might make a little more sense for that character to do stupid things like what Henry does in season 9. I don't think Carl would have made sense for him to do the stupid things that Henry does. So I'm okay with it. And Judith is still around. RJ is there. It was enough for me to be like, okay, I'm okay. I'm okay with this death. I think it's fine. I didn't think it was necessary to keep him around the way that a lot of people felt. I know he's, you know, the heart and soul of the show or whatever, but the way the episode was executed and the impact this has was massive. The only issue I have with this death, literally the only issue, in my opinion, I think they should have done a better job with building this up in season 7, because it does feel a little bit sudden for him to kind of be like, I think it makes sense when I really think about it, but I don't think most people understand it. So I think they could have explained it a little bit better and had it build up a little bit more, with having Carl change from being like, I want to kill Negan, to we need to make peace. It makes sense to me. He went to the sanctuary. He saw that there were good people there, so he thought, we don't need to have war anymore. We shouldn't have war anymore. It took him to go into the sanctuary to see that, though. But I think they could have maybe do a better job of explaining that a little bit to us, so people who don't understand that could understand it, and I think it would have worked out a lot better and wouldn't have felt as sudden, or wouldn't have felt as sudden. So I'm gonna give it A. I think the execution was great. I do. And if Rick was alive still, I think it also, not alive, but around for more of the recent seasons, I think it also would have helped alleviate the problems that people have with this death. But I'm sorry, I love the execution of it. I do. Like I said, it's the only thing out of S because there's a couple iffy things there. I like it. Hate me for it. Hate me for it. I also didn't like Carl that much, so maybe that. But like, it was impactful. I mean, this is Rick's son. It makes sense that this would be the thing to make him realize, okay, I can't kill Negan. And even then, it didn't make him realize that right away. It took some time. It took till after reading his letter to realize that. And no, even then, he still slit his throat. It just, he had to think about it in that moment. It was so hard for him to keep Negan alive, and that's how it should have been. I don't think there's any other way he would have kept Negan alive. I just don't. I don't. Simon's death, I thought it was okay. I wasn't honestly that big of a fan of it, simply because it was just kind of like, oh, Negan strangles him after finding out he was, you know, killing people at the hilltop and stuff, and like planning his demise. Like, it was just so like, okay, cool. I would have loved it. This sounds freaking bonkers, but I would have loved it if Jadis did it. And I always was hoping that they were going to involve the helicopter in the season 8 finale, and then Simon was going to be at the field battle, and somehow Jadis was going to come with the helicopter and just light up some saviors and then kill Simon in the process, because Simon's the one who wronged Jadis more than any other character. So I would have loved that, but I don't know. It was fine. Negan just choked him and killed him, whatever. Okay, cool. That's fine. Gregory, another one that's just average. I guess it was fitting, so I'm going to put it at B. It had a pretty big impact on Maggie's leadership at Hilltop, so I think that's good. Yeah, sure. I don't know. Jesus is an interesting one. I think the execution of this was pretty much perfect. It was one of the coolest moments in the show. The way how, you know, that Walker Whisperer dodged him and then stabbed him. It was shocking. Not really for me, because I'm a comic fan, so I kind of saw it coming, but it was still really damn awesome. But for non-comic fans, it was really shocking. And that moment alone deserves to give it some credit. But I also think Jesus as a character, they just didn't do him justice to the comics at all. So that definitely takes away from it a little bit, because we didn't get to see him in full Jesus form enough. We got him a little bit, but not enough. Not enough of Jesus, in my opinion, throughout the show. And the death didn't have that much impact on the characters going forward. I mean, who really thought about Jesus after this moment? I don't think we really talked about him much. I mean, you think it would impact Aaron a lot, but I don't know. It really just didn't. So that hurts it a little bit. I'm going to give it B. The moment's so good, though. The moment is so good. But then they do gloss over it. Yeah, they gloss over it. They gloss over it really quickly, because it is like, oh my god, it's Whispers. Maybe they could have given this to another character, that I'm really thinking about. They could have given this to like a smaller character. I think it would have been more fitting. Just because it's shocking enough to see a damn Whisperer, like a walker that stabs someone. It's shocking enough to see that. You know what I mean? You didn't have to kill off someone to make it shocking too. I think that's the issue. You could have done this with a smaller side character, and it would have had effectiveness the same way. It just wouldn't have been killing off a major character in this way. You could have killed Jesus off later and had it have more impact, in my opinion. So yeah, I think that definitely does ruin the death just a little bit for me. Enid. Enid's an interesting one because I think it had a lot of impact on Alden, so I liked it for that. But I also didn't like how they killed off another kid. They've been killing off way too many kids at this point, you know? It's like we already lost Carl last season. You really had to kill off Enid too. But I guess I was hoping it was going to impact Alden a lot, and it did. Alden had some cool stuff in season 10. I love the Pikes. I do. I love the Pike scene, but I don't know if I like the choices. I don't. I love the execution of that scene, but yeah, I don't know. But Enid's choice was okay, I think fine. And I think it was shocking enough that it made for a really good moment, especially seeing Sadiq's and Michonne's reaction afterwards. They were like, oh my god. I think that was cool. This next one right here, you probably can't see. It's Tara. That's just like a behind the scenes shot of Tara, the actress with their head. That's F. Tara's death is, to me, the worst death in the entire series. Plain and simple. I hate this death. I just hate it. This is why. First of all, it loses its impact because they trick you to think it's going to be Rosita, and then it turns out to be Tara. So you already are starting off with a bad death because you're tricking your fans into thinking it's a more important character and then making it a less important character. So then people don't care as much. They're not thinking, oh my god, it's Tara. They're thinking, oh my god, thank god it's not Tara. Or thank god it's not Rosita. So you already lost me there. It's also in between two other major characters, Enid and Henry. It's already losing its impact there from being in the middle. And it has literally zero impact on the story, even though Tara was, I think, a decently important character. Not one person was affected by her death. Not one person changed their personality because of death. Not one person even talked about Tara more than like once, maybe once after this episode. That's it. They don't bring up Tara ever again. She was just gone in the wind. I don't get why. I hate it. Henry, so much potential for this dude. I still to this day believe Ezekiel should have got it instead of Henry. I would have loved Ezekiel to get it instead of Henry. I think Ezekiel's a fantastic character, and I love Ezekiel. I love Ezekiel way more than Henry. But that's just the way I view this show. I don't view this show as, oh, I need my favorites to stay alive. No, I want people to have well-written deaths, and I think Ezekiel would have fit this death more. It would have impacted Carol pretty much the same way. We wouldn't have had another repetitive, oh my god, Carol lost another kid situation, but it still would have impacted Carol. And we would have had Henry turning into a badass like Carl was, because he would feel very, or like Carl was in the comics, because he would feel very, you know, like just like Lydia, he would feel like it was his fault for what happened. Lydia would still be just as upset over the situation. She would just be as upset because she was also at fault for what happened. So them two would be at fault, and we could have had some badass whisper action moments like we did in the comics where Lydia and Carl are fighting off walkers. We could have had that with Lydia and Henry, and that would have been awesome. And Henry could have turned into that dark character from this moment, like they were building up back in season 8 when they showed that parallel between Henry and Carl. I thought that was building towards something, but it built to absolutely nothing because Henry was never a dark character. Never. He was just a little clumsy klutz. That's all he was. And then he just dies from being a clumsy, horny teenager. That's all he was to the show. Fuck no, man. The choice for this death was shit. I still believe that to this day. It had a lot of impact, but I don't like the choice. The Pikes themselves, the scene was fantastic. It was in my top 10 favorite scenes, but I didn't like the choices that much. Enid's the only one that I could accept. I think Enid's the only one that worked. I just personally, like, I have a personal thing where I would have preferred she stayed alive because I think she had more character to her, but it's not like Enid, and it's not like Tara and Henry where I legitimately think it's a poorly written death because it takes away stuff that was built up for the character, and the impact either was inexistent with Tara or could have been altered in a much more important, in my opinion, way with Ezekiel. And all the stuff they're doing with Ezekiel the past couple seasons, like, they don't really need that stuff, to be honest. They could have replaced that with other characters. I love Ezekiel, I do. He's a great character, but I also think if he got that death, that would have been very fitting. It would have been really heartbreaking because it's the fucking king. It's the king. It would have been impactful. Gamma, F tier. I didn't even hesitate with that one. Gamma wasn't a really big character to begin with, but they killed her so suddenly, and again, it had no impact. to literally anyone. It was just Beta just stabbed her, and then she was there, and then Alden put her down. Okay, cool. I don't know, it just didn't have much impact. I don't know, it didn't do much for the series. Alpha's death from Negan, S tier, for sure. I did not include this in my top 10 moments, but it would probably be like top 20 moments. I think it's definitely one of the best moments in the show. It's from the comics, but it works. It works. The way it's done, the way, you know, Negan does it, and it has a big impact because obviously Negan killing Alpha means a lot to the war that happens here, and it had a lot of great build-up. So I really do like this death. I think it's really fitting, and I like how, you know, he was kind of like a plan from Carol, because he gives the head to Carol, and then he's like, and Carol's like, oh, thank you, or she says something like, oh, it took you long enough. That's what she said. So yeah, great death. I don't have much to say about it. I think you guys can probably agree with that, to be honest. Beta, yeah, F tier. Yeah, I don't like this death. First of all, not doing Negan versus Beta beforehand was already stupid enough. Definitely should have been Negan versus Beta. Doesn't mean Negan had to kill Beta, but Negan versus Beta should have happened, and Daryl should have been involved. It didn't happen. It was 2 seconds of them pushing each other over. It was not a fight. But even the death itself, I just don't like. It has some cool artisticness to it. How like he like pulls the things out, and then he like puts his arms out, and the walkers come and start eating him like his, almost like his fans. That's the only cool thing about it. But that does not hold it from being still, in my opinion, shitty. It is a weird moment the way it's edited too. If you watch it again, it's like he gets some stab in his eye from Daryl, and then like the whole screen changes to another color, and then he pulls them out, and it's like I said, it's supposed to be his mental state. He's just imagining that, because in reality he's getting eaten alive right now. But I just never liked it. Maybe I'm just salty because they didn't do Negan vs. Beta before it, but I didn't find it to be that interesting of a death. It came out of nowhere, and it could have had some build up, and I think it would have been better. You know what I mean? Maybe if they had a fight, I think it would have been more impactful. But like I said, even the way it was edited, and it was a little cheesy. I think it was a little cheesy. I like the idea behind it, the way he let the walkers get him, but I didn't like the execution. Sadiq. So I skipped Sadiq, actually. Sadiq should have been before this, because he was episode 7. But I like this Dante twist. I just don't know if I like Sadiq dying. So I'm actually going to put that in D. Because I think Sadiq was a character that was heavily influenced from Carl's death, obviously. Carl died for Sadiq. So him dying just didn't really sit well with me because of that. And the only thing I like about this scene was, I guess, the Dante twist was a little interesting. But I don't know, him just getting choked out and that's it. A little underwhelming for Sadiq, I would say. It had impact, but I don't know. It developed Father Gabriel, that's for sure. I think it definitely developed Father Gabriel more than anyone on the show. But I just don't like the execution of it. Yeah. I think that's all I got to say about that. Lucille, definitely not a major character, but major to Negan, therefore major to me. That's going in A tier for sure. I don't think it's deserving of S. It's not one of those moments, but I mean, it's a beautifully executed moment. I like how it parallels to Alpha in terms of her being bald, and it was very sad and emotional, and the music that plays and Jeffrey D. Morgan's acting is just stellar in this moment. So yeah, it's definitely deserving of that. Alden is an F tier as well. I complained about this in my reaction video to episode 9, but it was stupid. You had him away from the show for 6 whole episodes. 6. And then we find him as a walker. Yeah, you did that with Sophia, but it worked with Sophia because everyone was there, and it was a whole moment, and it was a kid, and it was the first time we saw that, and it was like shit, this is tough. But Alden, it didn't really impact anyone. Did Maggie change that much from that? I don't think she did. I really don't think Maggie changed that much from that. And it just, people forgot about it. It's not like Sophia, where we were looking for Sophia for 7 episodes. People forgot about Alden even being there. I watched so many reactions, and people were like, oh yeah, Alden was in there. And then he's just dead, and it's like, oh, he's dead. It's not impactful. And they had Enid die last season or two. So Enid's death feels worthless now. It's just not good. I don't know. And last but not least, Leah. Not that important of a character, to be honest, now that you really think about it. Like, I thought she would have been more important, but she was, I guess maybe for Daryl's like romantic side of him, he just realized maybe romance ain't for me, bro. Like, I don't know. But I do like how they handled her character towards the end here, though. I like how Daryl was the one to finish her off. I liked how they gave her a little 1v1 with Maggie. So I'm going to give her a B. I thought it was a fine death. It was just a gunshot to the head, though, so maybe that's a little boring. I don't know. Yeah, I guess it was just a gunshot to the head. You know, I might switch this with Simon because at least... No, I'll leave it there. Yeah, it worked. It worked. That's the best way to put it. It worked. All right, well, that's it. That's it for my deaths ranked. A lot of them the S, obviously, because, I mean, a lot of them are deserving of S tier. But, yeah, I mean, a lot in A, even too. Only a couple down here that I just really don't like all that much. There's a lot of characters left out. I know I left out a ton of characters, but like I said, they're not that important to me. I don't think they're as important. And I might have left out one or two that are important. I just forgot. And if I did, who cares? This is not. It's not a big deal. It's not the end of the world. There's so many character deaths in the show. This is a show full of death and despair. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know your list. Let me know what videos you want to see from me, what rankings you want to see from me. If you want to see more, if you don't want to see more, and you want me to stop milking these types of videos, then tell me that as well, and I will probably not take your advice because these are getting good views, but I will think about it. I will think about it. I will see you on my next one. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Peace out.